Hello and welcome to Naked Snake Press in collaboration with Horror Girls Nightmare Emporium. Have you ever seen a complete stranger who carried an uncanny likeness to yourself? Or perhaps you approached a close relative or friend you could recognize even if you were blindfolded and they were wearing a mask, only to realize that person was a complete stranger. It's a jarring experience, to say the least. Doppelgängers, doubles, evil twins, or weird glitches that offer a peek into a parallel timeline, only to see yourself. These are some encounters that will make you wonder about those you love and even yourself. Enjoy. And keep your doors locked. You wouldn't want to be replaced. Late at night, I usually go to the bathroom multiple times, but for the past 4 days, every time I go to leave, I can see myself still standing in the mirror from the corner of my eye. It is like the other me is watching me leave the bathroom. It terrifies me to the point where I almost run out without looking directly at the mirror. I never told my husband about it because I didn't want to acknowledge it out loud. Earlier today, I took a nap in our bed while he sat in the chair next to it watching TV. When I woke up, he told me that he had seen me sit up and crawl backwards to the edge of the bed and stand up in front of our bedroom door from the corner of his eye. He thought it was weird I got up like that because I'm in the last month of my pregnancy and I can't really move so well without it hurting. So he tried talking to me. When I didn't answer, he looked at the door to find me not there and still sleeping in bed. I got really creeped out and I finally told him about what I had been seeing in the bathroom. He thought it was creepy as well, but didn't want to really talk about it anymore because he thinks it will give whatever it is power or energy. I have no idea what it wants or why we have both seen it. When I was 9, I stayed home sick from school. I distinctly remember that I wasn't actually sick, simply playing hooky to avoid bullying. Kids are cruel, as I did that a lot around that age. I awoke from a nap, turned on the TV in our living room, and scrolled through some channels when my mother suddenly leaned over the bar and stared at me without saying anything. I had been awake for a few minutes at this point, so I can't rightly blame sleep paralysis for all of this. Now, whatever this thing was, it was entirely identical to my actual mother. It sounds weird to describe, but it's as if the only difference was that this thing pretending to be my mom had never felt a single emotion in its life. It was unsettling. It beckoned me, and I attempted to talk to her as I would my mother. She kept beckoning, refused to answer, and that's when I sensed something horribly wrong. Naturally, I started screaming at this thing to answer me. It just kept beckoning. I bolted, running out of the room and into the yard yelling for help. My mother, the real one, had been working in the yard and came rushing over. I told her what I'd just seen, and she soothed me with easy explanations that it must have been a fever dream, but thankfully stayed by my side the rest of the afternoon as I was a nervous wreck. I remember one Sunday morning, my brother and I were watching Cardcaptor Sakura on TV, and someone knocked on the door. We lived in an apartment that was empty. The owner hadn't rented the second floor. It was a 2-bedroom apartment with a kitchen and a bathroom by the door. A small apartment but with a big window that faces out to the door. So when I heard someone knock, I checked the window, and I saw my father, so I thought. I was going to the door to open it. When I was going to unlock the door, my mother pulls me away and screams at me to not open the door because I didn't know who it was. I told her I saw my dad. She freaked out, going to the window and then checking the peephole. She started to get terrified, and she said to go to the farthest room in the apartment and to not come out. She went and woke up my dad. My dad got up, angry and confused. We told him what we saw, and the man was still knocking at the door. My dad screamed, "Who is it?" No answer. He said he will call the cops, but no response. While my dad was busy screaming at him, we saw that he was just standing still in front of the door. So my mom took us to the farthest room from the door while my dad got ready to open the door with a metal bat. Once he did, the man was gone. My dad goes out looking everywhere around the apartment. The apartment door was a heavy metal door and always was heard when someone comes in and out, but we heard nothing that morning and nothing when my dad opened the door. We heard no footsteps either but my brother, my mother, and I saw that man that looked exactly like my father. When I was about 16 or 17, I was really heavy into doing the Ouija board. Other stuff happened, but the doppelgangers were definitely the worst. The first one was my mom. I heard her come in, and my best friend was with me. My friend and I walked down to greet her. She looked like a younger version of my mom and was carrying groceries, so I tried calling out to her, but she didn't respond and walked into my brother's room. Then I got a sick feeling. I called out to her, but she didn't respond still, so I followed her up. She was not there. When I walked back down, my real mom had come in and didn't know what was going on. She was also wearing a different outfit. The next one was my brother. My mom was talking to him on the phone, and he said he was on his way home. As soon as he hung up, my brother walked in the door. He talked to us for a little. Mom wanted him to take out the garbage or something, and then walk to the bathroom. He had been in the bathroom for like 15 minutes, and then I got the sick feeling again. I asked if he had fallen in or something. Then my real brother walked in and was freaked out. My mom checked on him all night to make sure he was okay. Both times they had darker eyes, and it felt sort of like a dream, but I was definitely awake, and other people witnessed it. I remember one time I was talking to my dad in a hallway of my house. I don't really remember what it was about. We both saw my mom clearly walk past us and into her room, shutting the door. I walked back out into the living room, and my mom was still on the couch, asleep. I looked back at my dad, and he looked at me. We were both terrified. We both crept over to their bedroom and looked at the closed door. Neither of us went inside. We were freaked. I'm pretty sure my dad slept on the floor that night. I'm so f***ing weirded out right now. What the actual FCK? I was sitting there on my computer when my brother walks in and sits down on his bed. He doesn't say anything. He is a quiet person, so that is normal. I go to the bathroom, walk back in, and he's gone. Look outside, and the car that he had left in with my mom a few hours ago still isn't there. I go outside to see if anyone else is home that I could have mistaken for him. Nope, I'm still home alone. What the hell? I replied, yes she is, I just saw her walk through the door. Right at that moment, my real mom walked through the door. At the time, my little brain couldn't process what had just happened, but as I've gotten older I now know who or what I saw. I sometimes still wonder what/who the doppelganger mom was looking for and where she went. Was she coming for me? And if so, does she still watch me from afar? We had problems with doppelgangers at a fast food joint that I worked at. I had 2 separate sightings myself. First, my general manager comes by to tell me, in the drive-thru, and the registered person to clean the lobby, then goes to the restroom. So the registered person and I come up with a plan and wait for her to come out. We see her walk out of the restroom, walk by us, and walk into the lobby. We go to catch her, and no one's there. We turn around, and she is walking out of the bathroom. We tell her what we saw, but she didn't believe us. Second, the manager and I are in the prep area. One of the girls who is working up front walks back and right into the walk-in cooler. After about 5 minutes of waiting, the manager asks me to go check on her. I open the walk-in door. There is no one in there. As I am trying to explain this to my manager, the girl in question walks into the prep area from the front. Needless to say, the manager believed me, and finally believed what had happened in the first sighting. My wife said she saw me standing in the kitchen doing something while I was actually at work at the time. She initially thought I had come home from work and was worried, and then the figure of me apparently vanished, which was naturally even more upsetting. No other occurrences before or since then. I woke up one morning to my dad going to the kitchen and stopping by to say, "Hey, wake up." And then I took out my phone and started watching YouTube. I was awake for sure. Later, my mom was walking to the kitchen and did the same thing my dad did. Then I get out of my bed, and I see that my parents were still in their room. I asked them if they asked me to wake up while walking to the kitchen, and they said no. I don't know what it was. Can somebody please explain? Thanks for reading. The first one was my husband. I turned into the hallway and saw him there, walking away from me and towards the bedroom at the opposite end. I called to him, but he didn't respond. As soon as he entered the bedroom, he turned to the left. There's just a wall there, not even any windows. I followed him into the bedroom, but there was no one there. My husband had been upstairs the entire time. The second time was my dad. He was unloading some things from his truck and was going to bring them to the back door, which opens into the kitchen. I was in the kitchen and heard a noise at the door. Through the window in the door, I saw my dad bending over, as though he was bending down to untie his shoes. I ran to the door and opened it, but there was no one there. My dad was still at his truck. Both times it's been a family member. Both times I haven't seen their faces. Neither event felt wrong in any way or sinister. The movements that the figures made were exactly the movements my dad or husband would have made. A similar thing happened when I was living at my sister's house in college. My room was in the basement, and the bathroom was on the second floor. One morning, she saw me in the hallway mirror behind her walking towards the bathroom in the same clothes I was wearing. She said good morning, but I didn't even look like I noticed. I then came upstairs about 5 minutes later, and she seemed puzzled, thinking I was already upstairs. Freaked her out. A similar thing happened when I was living at my sister's house in college. My room was in the basement, and the bathroom was on the second floor. One morning, she saw me in the hallway mirror behind her walking towards the bathroom in the same clothes I was wearing. She said good morning, but I didn't even look like I noticed. I then came upstairs about 5 minutes later, and she seemed puzzled, thinking I was already upstairs. Freaked her out. When I was in middle school, I was at a friend's apartment she lived in with her mom. Her mom was cool and let us party there, and she was always at work for long/late hours. There was a group of us there, maybe 6 people or so. Everyone was in the living room except for this couple who were in the mom's bedroom with the door closed and lights off. We had all gotten pretty baked. I had just made myself a snack and was walking to my friend's bedroom, which was right past the mom's room where the couple was. As I walked past the mom's bedroom door, out of the corner of my eye, I saw the door opening from the inside and a partial face/head that looked identical to my friend's mom, who was not at home. I didn't think anything of it, since there were so many people in the small apartment, and kept walking and sat in my friend's room. A minute later, a girl who had been screwing around in that bedroom came out and yelled at me and asked me why I had kicked the door open. I told her I saw someone come out of there, and she was adamant that I had walked by and kicked the door open. The more I thought about it, the weirder it was. I thought she was messing with me at first, but the person I saw didn't look like anyone that was there at the time. It looked so much like the mom. If it were her, it would have meant that she had somehow snuck back into the apartment after being gone for hours, hidden in her room in the dark for over an hour while this couple was messing around in her bed, and then she would have to have discreetly left the bedroom and passed the living room full of people to get to the front door. When I was in middle school, I was at a friend's apartment she lived in with her mom. Her mom was cool and let us party there, and she was always at work for long/late hours. There was a group of us there, maybe 6 people or so. Everyone was in the living room except for this couple who were in the mom's bedroom with the door closed and lights off. We had all gotten pretty baked. I had just made myself a snack and was walking to my friend's bedroom, which was right past the mom's room where the couple was. As I walked past the mom's bedroom door, out of the corner of my eye, I saw the door opening from the inside and a partial face/head that looked identical to my friend's mom, who was not at home. I didn't think anything of it, since there were so many people in the small apartment, and kept walking and sat in my friend's room. A minute later, a girl who had been screwing around in that bedroom came out and yelled at me and asked me why I had kicked the door open. I told her I saw someone come out of there, and she was adamant that I had walked by and kicked the door open. The more I thought about it, the weirder it was. I thought she was messing with me at first, but the person I saw didn't look like anyone that was there at the time. It looked so much like the mom. If it were her, it would have meant that she had somehow snuck back into the apartment after being gone for hours, hidden in her room in the dark for over an hour while this couple was messing around in her bed, and then she would have to have discreetly left the bedroom and passed the living room full of people to get to the front door. Both times that my family experienced doppelgangers, the doppelgangers refused to respond when spoken to. The first was my sister's doppelganger, whom my brother told to go downstairs for lunch. She did not answer. When my brother walked downstairs, he instantly saw my actual sister wearing a different shirt. She couldn't have passed my brother so quickly because the staircase led directly to our dining area. The second was my own doppelganger, who stood at my door at 12 p.m., mute and staring at my sister, who was using the computer. I wasn't actually home until 4 p.m. later that day after school. My sister didn't know that until she asked me why I was just staring at her without emotion earlier around noon. When I was 7/8 of a years old, I saw my mom's doppelganger. I vividly remember seeing her eyes. They were bigger and whiter than usual, and now that I'm looking back on it, it seemed as if she was looking for something or someone. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I was sitting on the living room floor watching cartoons when I heard the front door open. I turned around and saw my mom walking through the door with that wide-eyed, sort of searching look on her face. I distinctly remember saying, "Hey, Mommy," and I turned back around and continued to watch my cartoons. When the show was over, I got up to go see where my mom had gone, but I couldn't find her. I went to ask our nanny where my mom went, and she looked at me with a weird look on her face and said, "What? Your mommy isn't home yet?" A little confused, I replied, "Yes, she is. I just saw her walk through the door." Right at that moment, my real mom walked through the door. At the time, my little brain couldn't process what had just happened, but as I've gotten older, I now know who or what I saw. I sometimes still wonder who the doppelganger mom was looking for and where she went. Was she coming for me? And if so, does she still watch me from afar? Eyes. This happened today, 17th June 2017. First of all, I'm from the beautiful island of Fiji, and we normally don't have creepy stuff going around here, but whatever happened to me today scared the fuck out of me. I was on my way to the capital city with Mom, and we were waiting for the bus at the bus stop. I saw this passenger-carrying minivan stop at the bus stop, and I saw my 19 years of best friend sitting in there. I told my mom that Anna is in that minivan, and before I could call her, the minivan left. So I decided to call her, and to my shock, she was at work, and I asked her multiple times if she isn't playing around with me. But she wasn't. I told my mom, and she said I'm overthinking. But trust me, I know I saw her, the same curly hair, that fair skin, and the beautiful face. I've never experienced anything of this sort, but this creeped me out. So I had just gotten real baked at my friend's apartment, walking home in broad daylight. Down the sidewalk ahead of me, I see two young girls, instantly recognizable as Mormon missionaries. They get maybe 50 feet away from me, and one of them waves and calls me by name. We meet, and one of the girls gives a friendly hello, acts like she knows me. Bear in mind I'm pretty stoned, so I'm trying to figure out if I know her from somewhere, but she catches on that I don't recognize her and acts kind of offended, so she reminds me that we had some big long conversation on her friend's porch on such and such street just a few days prior. Now at this point in my life, I smoked a lot of weed, but I never drank or did anything else, and going to random parties and charming pretty young blondes was completely off the menu. I was already half in love from the moment she smiled at me. I don't think I would have forgotten this long, engrossing conversation we apparently had. Now her expression I remember as I stumble through this conversation. At first she thought I was joking, then she thought I was being mean, and then she kind of looked just as confused as I was. So I suggest, maybe it was my brother you met? She looks at me skeptically, not unless he's your identical twin. My brother and I look like brothers, but you'd never confuse one for the other. So we awkwardly, confusedly parted ways. I don't remember the other girl ever saying anything. Then it dawns on my dumb stone brain, she knew my name. I turn around, they're a few hundred feet away. I yell, "Wait. How did you know my name?" But they don't hear me, and I foolishly couldn't muster the courage to run to catch up with them. That SHT bugged me for weeks. I wanted to know what we had talked about. This is just a little story that's probably not worth telling, but a couple of friends got a kick out of it. I let my dog out at midnight one night, left the door ajar for him to come back in, then went about making some soup and something to drink. After a couple of minutes, I hear his distinctive two long toenails trotting back in on the wood flooring. I lock up the door and return to my meal. I then hear my dog barking from outside. Any dog owner knows that there's no mistaking those toenails, so I was a little shocked that he was somehow back outside what had come in. It didn't really spook me. My wife said she saw me standing in the kitchen doing something while I was actually at work at the time. She initially thought I had come home from work and was worried, and then the figure of me apparently vanished, which was naturally even more upsetting. No other occurrences before or since then.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And feel free to leave a comment or email the Horror Girls with suggestions, your own scary experience, original fiction, disconcerting videos, or anything horror related that you would like to share. We'd also love to help promote indie or up-and-coming horror authors by posting a book review or your book trailer. Email us for more info.